Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Latte on Cloud Cost, a podcast that guides you through complex world of cloud cost optimization. I'm your host, Praneet Chandra, and every 2 weeks we deep dive into strategies, tools, and the best practices that helps FinOps professionals, engineering leader, and DevOps teams to navigate the complex world of cloud computing. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Varsha Sundar, a true pioneer in the cloud FinOps space. Welcome, Varsha. She's currently Vice President at Global Cloud FinOps at Chubb, where she leads initiatives focused on cloud optimization, cost management strategy. With over 10 plus AWS certifications and recognition as FinOps certified professional, Varsha brings exceptional expertise to our table today. She also serves as FinOps Foundation North American Ambassador, where she helps organizations across the continent to implement best practices in cloud financial management. Throughout her impressive career, she has held key roles at several big organizations, and her journey started as a research assistant at Columbia University. So there's a lot of deep technical expertise that you can expect in this entire podcast today. And that showcases that, hey, there's so much dedication towards mastering this financial aspect of cloud computing. Please join me in welcoming Varsha Sundar. Hey, Varsha, how are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm good. And that was a long, lengthy, wonderful intro. Thank you. You've done
Yeah.
your
Uh,
research.
Yes, I did my research, right? I've read so much about everything, right, that you keep on posting, that you keep on talking on LinkedIn. It literally intrigued me that, okay, yes, Varsha deserves probably a longer introduction, right, as compared to anything. And there, it's well deserved. Just diving into the conversation, right? You had such a good career with a lot of big companies, small companies, right from being a research assistant and everything, right? What all flavors of cloud adoption that you have seen across in your career, right? And it's a long career. I know, like, so feel free like how you would like to play it, like you want to go from on-prem to cloud, multi-cloud, like spread it out. Yeah, please do it.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yes, different enterprises have different ways of
Yeah,
thinking, but I think if you see, there is a certain pattern that throughout my career that I've observed. One is initially, it was always, hey, cloud first. Everything has to be in the cloud. So a lot of lift and shift is what I would see, or it still exists, like all the lift and shifts. Like, oh, we take all our on-prem, cloud costs lesser. Like we did the math, we did the pricing, etc., and then lift and shift happened, and now we are spending more. And then the second category was like, oh, we should, architect better, rather than lift and shift. Why not use cloud native or cloud friendly services? So that was the second part of the journey, right? And then it was more efficient, but not efficient enough because costs were exploding. So then
yeah,
came, a phase where, oh, it should be cloud evaluation. Let's evaluate, see if it is cloud worthy, and then let's put it in the cloud. So that's so far that's what I've seen. And then now recently it's like AI, and are these AI friendly? Can we put things in? Can we use a lot of AIs to assist us? So I think that's
yeah.
where the transition is been going on from my perspective, from what I've seen.
Oh, that's great. Like, I think you touched that entire three-part journey, right? That I keep on getting reinforced from everyone I talk on my show, right? That, hey, there was this first lift and shift cloud modernization wave. Okay, is that what is kind of cloud compute is correct? Can we optimize what we are doing? Move to Kubernetes, containerization. I think more of cloud native adoption. And I think now we have reached to a place where we are talking about what are the costs of business metric, right? And actually, okay, cloud should not be stop treating it as a capex or opex, but treat it as part of your essential business metric, right? And I think
Right.
that's important. In fact, there's a funny thing. I was seeing a meme yesterday where you remember that Scooby Doo thing, right? Where they pull off the mask, right? So on the
Right.
mask on the front, it was written cloud adoption. And when you pull out the mask, it's like lift and shift from on-prem to cloud. So
Oh
that was a
my
funny one. I
God.
was like, wow, this is so. And when you said that, right, that meme just struck my mind. So I thought it's worth telling that. Yeah.
I mean, that's how most companies, I think, they start initially because, I mean, don't get me wrong. Initially, it's all cloud, and you have this deadlines that you got to meet. You need to have the right set of engineers. There is the cost with everything. Every day you delay, you're shutting down your on-prem, but then you have to get into the cloud. There's a lot of, metrics in stake. There's a lot of apps that are in stake because if we don't do
Yeah.
that lift and shift, we're going to lose. There's a lot more to lose than to do a lift and shift at at certain point. And then, like you touched upon, like, hey, can we modernize it? And then, how much is enough? And then, how far
Yeah,
can we go and modernize? And after modernizing, then comes the question of, hey, do we need these DRs? Do we really need these? Do we need to keep these servers
yeah,
24 bar 7? There's a lot of business, or I would say environment based decisions, right? And it's a sustainability. Hey, is this region, are we looking at sustainability as a KPI? So are we green?
correct.
Do we
Yeah,
have, are we going green? So I think over the years, it's not just about like cloud. It's now we are looking at broader KPIs, right? Not just performance, efficiency, cost. It's much more to the
agree.
metrics that we initially started, the journey with.
Got it. Yeah, I think it's a evolution path, and I think now I can see a very good roadmap. Like it has somehow evolved in last year or so, right? Where you see like, okay, how should organizations actually mature, right? And much of it goes contribution to the good folks at FinOps Foundation. They have been writing about it, but also leaders like you who write it like very clearly, like, hey, don't feel bad where you are at today, right? Because everyone has to go through that. And I think that's really important, right? But tell me like one thing, right? What are the key challenges that you see, right? You talk about this lift and shift migration, right? And I talk to a lot of CTOs who are right now planning to move from on-prem some of their legacy application, and they're scared, right? Because the kind of business impact it has is huge, right? So what do you think,
Right.
like once they move on to cloud, what will be the key challenges that they will face? And this is for all those CTOs who are planning for this thing, right? Yeah, please.
My hat from that perspective, what I see is the lift and shift itself will take longer because there are like various parts on prem, right? Like you need to make sure that
Yeah.
each part of that app or that project, is, cloud is able to take it, or it is cloud friendly. Like, are we going to
Hmm.
optimize? Do we have the time to optimize it? Or are we just going to do a lift and shift? Then there could be licenses that we have spent on. Can we, like, for example, can we do a hub licenses for SQL, right? And can we use that on the cloud? Are we like double paying?
Yeah.
Sometimes what, the way, people would say it, hey, our on-prem cost should go up, go down, and then the cloud cost will go up, but not significantly up, because it's lift and shift, and then we need to have, use the cloud friendly or cloud services, right? But most of the time that's not true. What we end up doing is we did a lift and shift, but we still keep the lights on prem just to make
Yeah.
sure that the apps don't go down, and then we are
Yeah.
double paying. And we have to be very careful to budget those scenarios in, right? Because how long are we keeping the lights on in both places, right? And to add to it, right, on prem, sometimes it could be that, hey, our data center, we're shutting down certain aspects of it. Are we ready for it? Did we think through it? Again, the disaster recoveries, right? There could be different sites on prem that we are doing a disaster recovery. So scraping those, taking them, putting it in, and not just lift and shift, even during lift and shift, right? If you see, there are these wonderful cloud native tools that help you with
Yeah.
migration. But sometimes there's a lot of hiccups, right? Saying, hey, it appeared initially that it can be done, but there are certain certificates or there are certain licenses that don't let you do it, or outdated versioning of certain types of
Yeah.
services. So these are the points where we get hung up on, and then we end up paying more, or our budget blows up.
Correct. And tell me one thing, right? Most of the cloud providers, with what I've seen, they always give you some form of budget credits when you do these migrations, right? Program
Right.
as such. Now, but you cannot do all the migration on your own. You definitely need a third party expertise to do it. Somebody like a lot of people have this MSP competency. That's what I think it's called in the AWS world and something in GCP as well. Now,
Hmm.
how do you see a role of MSP? Can they really help us do better migrations, right? Or do you think like what would be a process look like? When should I involve a third party to do this, right? Help me do these migrations of workload. How should I, like we talked about budget, right? Hey, you should budget about like double infrastructure, great, DRs and everything. But then what would be my process look like, right? If I try to do it,
I think it varies, right, from enterprise to enterprise. That's one. Because
Yeah.
if you are a smaller enterprise, do you have enough, not only budget, right, folks to even coordinate those? Or sometimes
Yeah.
having a third party helps you because you may not have enough technical depth. If you have technical depth, having a third party definitely helps you're gaining, right? Because they're going to come in, they're going to investigate your landscape, look through it, and then help you with the lift and shift or provide more guidance to it. If
Hmm.
you're in a mid-size org, your technical depth would be lesser, I would assume. And then at that point, initially you can start with your cloud native tools, and then if need be, then you can engage your third party or completely go with the third party, right? And
Yeah.
then engage your cloud native tools. And then if you're a bigger organization or enterprise, I mean, if you're a bigger enterprise, you'll have different orgs or business units within. So it also depends on the funding, which business unit is going to fund. Say one business unit would say we would use our own third party, but the other one says, hey, you know what, we don't have, our internal, engineering teams or operation teams, let's get together and, get this migrated. And it's not just that, right? It also has to do with the fact that your timelines, how much of a timeline do you have? And cost is not just budgets. It's also like the resources that is getting involved, right? It may be human, may be other kinds of resources. It's that timing.
Yeah.
Time also is, for me, time is also another like metric. It's a
It is
big,
an
it's
important
also a
one.
cost metric. First, you got to evaluate what you currently have and then
Yeah.
make those decisions.
Got it. Let's zoom out a little bit from migrations. I think we've talked a length about migration. I think this will be useful for a lot of CTOs, right, who are really planning at this point of time. Let's zoom a little bit back into the cloud cost problem, right? So help me understand two things. When you look at like even your current role or your previous roles, right, it has always been, I would say, neck deep into figuring out, okay, what's actually happening? What is this weird line item that we are paying every month and why it
Right.
happens? So how do you think about strategies, right? Like, how do you think about the strategies around tracking and managing your cloud spend? And I know we can build a lot of fancy dashboards, but I have a problem with dashboards. Yes, it is great for first 7 days. All of us will see every day, and then we'll forget it because nobody's tracking it, right? And it's like, oh yeah, I gave you a dashboard. You can always check that, but then you will end up asking, can you please tell me again, right? So, what are the right strategies and like or tooling or again, I'm saying dashboard, but I don't know if the dashboard is the right
Report.
form. But what are the strategies, right, for tracking and managing your cloud spend? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a multi-part problem, when I look at it. Because see, like you said, we can give dashboards, right? It can be pretty, it can be bare minimum, but end of the day, it's what persona is looking at what, right? That's one problem. Like
Correct.
who's looking at it? So you should always have that in mind. Second, how clean is your data? Because garbage in, garbage out. So you need to understand what you're providing them with, enough explanation, right? So in order to achieve this, as a FinOps person, I need to understand what is going on in the cloud, or
Correct.
in the cloud. Like where is the billing and how is the billing being set up? Billing doesn't mean like, hey, for example, if I'm using Azure or AWS, I turn it on and then the bill comes in. No, it's not just that. Having the right tags, for some organizations, in my experience, business unit plays a vital role because funding comes from business unit. For some, within the business unit, they take it and then they further do a charge back. So say I have a team, I cater to a team, but the team internally caters to a lot of its own, teams, right? So it's like, how are we going to deal with those? Because your resource is one, meaning you'll have just one resource tagged to one cost center, right? But then
Yeah.
how are we further charging back? Because the end user, right, he doesn't care how much the resource is spending. He cares about his portion of that spend. So the way, like you said, if I give him a dashboard which has everything, he doesn't care because for him, hey, how much am I spending?
Tell me one thing, right? And this is sorry for breaking the thought, but I have a question, right? When you say that, how much am I spending?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I have to necessarily go to a 1980s looking BI tool, right? First question.
Right.
The second thing is, why can't I be automatically updated, or can I do something on the fly, right? Where I can ask assistant, right? I'm not trying to
Right.
take the conversation intentionally to generative AI, right? But you get my point, right? Why I have to go
Right.
to a static dashboard where I have to remember the credentials, log in, and do 10 things. I already have so many tabs. So,
Right.
what should be the new strategy? Yeah, let's talk about new
That's where
strategy.
perfect. I mean, this is an arena where this is a topic that I like to talk a lot about. So I think the new strategy should be, hey, there are folks who understand, there are FinOps folks or the team who understand how the bill is. But like you said, the end user, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about a dashboard. All he says is, how much is my EC2, and provide some details and get the answer, right? This is where AI comes into play, right? You can train your foundation models, give your all the different documents or all the different details, and then they ask a question and it's going to spit out the details, right? Not
Yeah,
just that, not just like, hey, how much is my spend? It could also be like, hey, what is the pricing for this particular region, for this particular resource compared to this particular the other region? This helps with the like, again, sustainability, right? So now when
yeah,
I have all the details and then I ask, hey, how much am I spending? There it gives you all the details that you need. You don't have to go log in or do a lot of clicks. Everything is there for you. You don't have to go and click like 4 or 5 you know links, or you don't have to go to AWS or Azure or Oracle or whatever multi-cloud environment you have, right? You don't have to go to each service provider to know their price sheet or their calculation, because if everything is
yeah,
integrated, as an end user, I have all the details. It's like Google, right? Where you go and you give something, it's going to spit out a lot of answers, and then you know what you need and you get your answer. And you don't 24/7, you don't have to make sure that somebody is there for you to assist you or anything. It's there, you ask, and also it's your corporate's details, right? It's not
yeah,
going out. It's with all the SLAs or with all the discounts that is in place for your enterprise. It's catered, right, for your
yeah,
corporation,
correct.
and you have all the details.
Yeah, I think this is a very good analogy to something that I was talking to another friend who's a senior UX researcher. He said the future of UX is no UX. So basically, everything would be interaction, either voice or typing in or something. And then we
Right.
know UI. And I think the first thing that should be killed is basically dashboards, right? Dashboards are so difficult to understand because one person creates from their perception. Why can't you give me a talking dashboard? And I think that would solve a lot of problem for a lot of people. Correct.
Right, and not just that, right? Your AI or your assistant can help you
Yeah.
developing those dashboards or reports for your based off your requirement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so why should I go with a static dashboard that I cannot change anything, right? I think that's where we should head for the entire FinOps reporting and everything. Great. So that brings me to another part of the problem. What are some common misconceptions about cloud cost optimization? Now, I think we have talked about migrating to cloud, looking at visibility. Now, tell me, like, a lot of people are skeptical, right? Hey, we don't need to do cloud cost optimization. We are good, right? And why are those misconceptions, right? Can you highlight some of those that you have seen?
Sure. I mean, some folks can think that if they have everything, like I said, clean and clear data, yeah, you know what is going on in your environment, you have a hang of it, great.
Yeah,
But most companies, it's not true, right? Because I would tell you that there is definitely somewhere a resource that you don't need that has been spun up and you have no idea that you don't need it. So that is where cloud cost optimization comes into play, right? It's not like, oh, it's like, oh, these are people who just do finance, or these are people who just do governance. It's a multi-part problem, right? A cloud FinOps person or a team, a persona or a team deals with various different personas, like the leadership buy-in. They deal with
got it.
security and governance. They deal with security folks, right, to get the right policies in place. They deal with business owners to get their buy-ins,
Hmm.
to make sure the approvals for onboarding is accurate, or give them the
Yeah,
necessary advice, right, direction.
got it.
Then app owners, right? Because day in and day out, you work with app owners, because these are owners who know in and out about their apps. So these are people with whom you would work for all the cleanups and stuff. And then there's finance, who's always like, hey, what is the bill? I don't understand. Give me more details, right? So,
Yeah,
and then engineering, you work with cloud engineering, you work with cloud operations day in and day out. Hey, is the change ticket done? Hey, can we some of the service or particular version is going end of life, can we switch it? When you do your architecture, can you upgrade those architectural
Right. Yeah.
designs, right? So the misconception is, oh, it's good, just cost. It's not cost. It's about, there are
Correct.
various metrics that we need to take into play, right? Cost is one, but then there's also efficiency, there's also sustainability, right? There's also how much time are we taking? And then there is also like, hey, can we clean up? Are we clean?
Correct.
Tagging is again another metric. So it's not, cloud optimization is not thoroughly, like, in my perspective, and there is unit costs, right? Not just how much savings, because you're going to
Yeah.
run out of savings after a few years because you're going to keep optimizing.
Agreed.
But there
Yeah.
are other metrics to it, which also is part of cloud cost optimization.
And I think you're right on over there because I feel like everyone in the company is involved. So everyone should measure from their own perspective, right? Your KPI for a CTO and a GM cannot be same, right? It would be very different. And so everyone should measure, right? That cost per business metric kind of thing. I think that's very interesting. I've got a follow up on this thing. When you think about all of these different people coming together, trying to fix
Mm-hmm.
this one massive problem that, okay, we are over budget again this year. We don't know why it happened. Correct. How do you think, what's a right approach? Like, who should take this initiative first? We all talk about this cost conscious culture, cost centric culture. Let's keep all of it aside, right?
Right.
Who should be the first responder, as I like to call it, to this cloud cost problem? Is it a CFO or CTOs that I currently see today because they get flagged with, oh, there's a massive bill? Or it should be the engineers who are actually deploying on cloud at a rapid pace. And with generative AI, I think with so much of vibe coding and everything, I think people are even deploying faster, right? So who should be the first responder for cloud costs? And how can we make them more accountable? I don't want to do it after it's done, right? After my month is
Uh-huh.
over and I get an extra bill, I cannot do anything about the past month. Yeah, I can probably fix something out tomorrow, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
the approach needs to evolve. So, what's your take on
Correct.
it?
In my opinion, everybody has to do their part, right? It's not
Yeah,
like you pin it on one person, or like you said, it's not like, hey, go and check the report dashboard every day. It's not one person's responsibility. So, right from allocation till the, like changes or onboarding, it's everybody's responsibility, right? Cloud is a continuously evolving, it's an evolving process, right? And everything is
yeah,
always evolving in the cloud. We have new services, new products, new versioning. So it's a top-down approach or bottom approach, right? Where a CTO decides how much to spend when they have to review their numbers every week or every month because they get their bills monthly. So they have to have a handle on where is it, the projections, and how are we doing. And then the next,
yeah,
the CTO would or should be looking at, hey, how can I constantly evolve? So, I have modernization at the same time, I'm not overboarding my budget, right? And then the
yeah,
app owners they know what is going on in the app. So can we modernize it? Are the tags appropriate? Am I, updating my apps? Am I checking for DRs, right? Am I looking for failures? Are there any, single point of failure? So those, is my, application dependent, or does it have any external dependencies? Because like I said, it's not just cost, it's like a different KPIs for different level. And then, finance is like looking at how are we doing, on a regular basis. And then you also have engineers, right? Like who work day in and day out. So they have to look at how are they deploying? Is it like constant? Is there like tweaking, or is there like some
yeah.
parameters that are, keyed in? So those
Hmm.
are some of the things that somebody has to, or every person is responsible for. If everybody does their job, I think end of the day it's a win-win for all of us.
Yeah, I wish for that world, right? Like it just happens. Great.
And,
I think
yeah, and
earlier,
that's when, sorry, and that's when,
sorry, please.
you can have these third party to have auditing, right? Auditing keeps you honest with how you're doing
Yeah,
as a whole. And security is another, perspective. And then, having data, are we using lifecycle policies? How are we taking care of orphan resources? So this is a constant evolution.
That's very interesting, right? Like it's not a fixed framework. You evolve as you grow. Correct. Yeah.
And it's
Great.
very dynamic,
Uh,
right? It's very, very
yeah.
dynamic.
It's very dynamic. It's like a living organism, right? It is growing day by day. So you got to adapt along with it, right? You cannot apply the same formula to 3-year-old and 18-year-old. It won't work. Great.
Mhm.
So, in your opinion, like, and this is more towards your style in working on cloud financials and everything. If cloud cost optimization had a secret ingredient, right, what would be it in your experience, Varsha?
One is knowledge. Like you have to keep yourself updated with all the different services that are coming out or that already there. Any not only services, right? Like it's like this. You have a service and you have so many parameters, right? That you got to adjust the knobs on because if you don't adjust it right, you're going to spend money. It's like having an AC at home. So if you keep it too high, you're going to spend money. If you keep it too low, you're not comfortable with it. So you need
Yeah.
to know where to stop the knob. So you're at a comfortable environment. So that's one. The other thing is there's so many certs out there, right? Certifications. Give those. You'll know where you stand today. That also gives you more knowledge of hey, what's current in the market. Follow people like yourself, who are,
Yeah.
and podcasts that you've been doing, right? All these gives you more knowledge and how what people are doing out there, because what works for one organization may or may not work in another organization, but we all learn, right? What failed or what worked. So I think that to me is a secret sauce, and also be part of the community, get to know more people, ask for help, have the good connections. These are the things that I can think of that has helped me in my journey.
Great. I've got another question around it. And that is going to be again interesting. You can feel free to say, no, I'm not going to tell you about it. Have you been using generative AI to do any of your work around cloud cost optimization? And if yes, how? Yes, you can always keep the secret sauce aside. I know there might be a lot of confidentiality and everything, but
Hmm.
I think this is a place that intrigues me, right? I see everyone. I was just at SaaS Talk USA, and everyone I spoke to, right, whether it was sales, marketing, GTM, RevOps, development, everyone is talking, hey, that is where I'm using AI. And I think that I do not see right now with a lot of people who are doing FinOps, right?
Uh-huh.
So I want to understand, hey, are we doing it? And then we are not talking about it. So I would love to learn that, Varsha. Yeah.
Where currently I am, I would say partial, because like
Yeah.
I said, generative AI is a broader term, right? Like how are we utilizing? For example, it can be chat. So today, we use it partially for getting the price sheets and stuff, right? Where we just
Yeah.
type in and we get the details. But like I said, having that end to end is the goal, where I don't
Correct.
have to answer. So only when people can get to know their stuff on their own, and eventually most of it would be like, hey, I got my answer, but I need help with this. Let's talk.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I think good steps to start with. But I think we all should be talking about it. I was like thinking the other day, like, hey, how do I start doing something around focus and everything? Can we start doing
Right.
some kind of generative AI? Does all the data work and probably exposes a good interface for leaders like you who can actually query the data on the fly, right? And
Right.
probably
Yeah.
there's a, yeah, please go.
Yeah, I think focus is great, right? Because it standardizes, the data, and all you have to do is have that Gen AI in front of it, and then
Correct.
have it and standardize it for how based off your cater it to your, enterprise, and then have the Gen AI, and then start using it, right? It's like click of a button, you have it.
Correct. I think that does make sense. Great, Varsha. As we come towards the end, I've got one question, right? I asked everyone, right?
Sure.
I am today somebody who understands cloud. I might be a DevOps engineer. I might be a cloud support function. I might be cloud operations. Probably I just pick up phone, help people, right? Yeah, okay, your EC2 is overage, or probably a person. Why
Hmm.
should I go into FinOps? Why should it be my career choice if I'm trying to think about it? And how should I really land my first role? It's very difficult, right? The amount of openings, yes, it has increased. We could always say 200% year over year, but it's still it's less, right? Because it's evangelizing. So how
Uh-huh.
would you think, or what would you tell Praneet, right? Praneet, hey, Okay, you are a DevOps engineer, you know some part of DevOps. Okay, you have done cloud operations, and please help me move to like FinOps. Like, Varsha, please help me. What should I do? Yeah,
So, good question. If I tell you how I started, it'll be, I think that would help people.
probably that's the answer. Yeah.
I came with zero cloud background. I applied, I got the role. I had very basic knowledge, but research, like I said, I each service I saw, I started understanding, reading through the document, and I got better at it. And I started getting my hands dirty. And I joined the FinOps community, got to know a lot of people, did my certification. Right, there is FinOps practitioner and professional certification, and they have a lot more engineer. Like you said, if you're a different persona, each persona they have a certification out there, which gives you an idea of what FinOps is, right? And then all you got to do is come on board, do that work, and understand what it is. Even as an engineer, developer, or an engineer, right? You are doing FinOps, but you may not know that you're doing FinOps. If you're
Yeah.
doing a modernization, it is FinOps, right? That would help you to project. And why FinOps? If you like numbers and if you like to research, if you're a logical person who loves to go and solve problems, I think this is a role for you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah, I think that is very well articulated, right? Where do you place yourselves and do you really want to go there? Yeah, that's great. So, yeah, that brings us to closure, Varsha. It was great speaking with you today, right? And had a lovely chat. So, thank you once again, Varsha. And for our listeners, right, this was Varsha. Varsha comes with loads of experience. You should definitely go and read her LinkedIn posts, right? Lot of knowledge right over there. And obviously, she has given a very tiny portion onto this podcast, but looking forward to doing few more on a deeper topics, right? So thank you, everyone.
Definitely. Thank you.